I'd like to call to order this concurrent meeting of School Administrative Unit Number 12 in the Londonderry School Board today, Wednesday, October 4th, 2006 at 7:04. If we could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, it's to our right. And I'll lead us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, and for those of you that are not watching the other channels this evening and passing through live, this is the school board in room 221, which was graciously outfitted by the cable department with cameras and at no taxpayer expense, as they say. And it's a community room that's intended for meetings like this. This agenda this evening is simply to review the superintendent's strategic plan, and I'll turn it over to him and we'll continue on.
Okay, thank you, Steve. As you mentioned, the purpose tonight is to review, actually highlight certain aspects of our strategic plan. We have put together a plan for the board's consideration that runs from 2006 through the year 2011. The plan covers 5 goal areas: curriculum instruction, professional development, communications, operation, and space. Each of the goals are broken down into priority areas, and then the priority areas are then broken down to objectives. We have a grand total of 5 goals, 15 priority areas, 58 objectives, and 571 actions running through the length of the strategic plan. Part of the purpose tonight, and I think what we're going to try and do, is highlight the 06-07 activities, and then if board members have particular questions, we'd be more than happy to respond in greater depth. Members of the administrative team are here this evening, and they will be more than happy to provide you with whatever information you so desire. To preset this, I'd like to make a couple of opening comments. One, we believe that this plan, like the other iterations of our plan, is a synergistic approach that's designed and focused around what we consider to be our major responsibility, and that is curriculum and instruction. Professional development, communications, operations, space are all issues that are dictated by what we want to do in our instructional program. They become secondary and supportive to what our major goal is. As you go through the plan, I think what I'd like you to have just a general understanding of is that our actions are based on what we're come to describe as universals. Those universals fall into 4 areas, and you will see how they're emphasized throughout this plan. The first universal really is literacy, which we consider to encompass reading and comprehension, reading to learn, and also viewing skills. This is a precursor to thinking, and thinking leads to reasoning, problem solving, creativity, elaboration, and ongoing action research. Third universal for us is communication: writing, speaking, listening, the arts, and the utilization of information and technology. The fourth universal is numeracy, numbers, and math is not just numbers, but also reasoning, problem solving, and thinking. And the fourth component is well-being: health, ethics, self-confidence, accountability, personal responsibility, self-direction, and citizenship. And you will see how all of these are really interwoven, and everything comes out of that. We wouldn't be able to do foreign language instruction if, in fact, our youngsters were not able to read and comprehend the written word. Numeracy really is another language when you think about it. Math is another way of communicating. It's another language. The focus of all of this is to provide youngsters with the basic skills for the 21st century and have them be able to utilize those skills to solve problems, to think through issues, to look at things in an ethical manner, to go about doing research, and being able to use these basic skills as the precursors and the supporters for all the other programs and instruction and services that we provide in this school district. And these are, as universal skills, these are the skills that youngsters will carry over into adulthood and use to continue to learn, to be lifelong learners. And that falls right in perfectly with what our shared vision is and what our mission is, and supports and frames our district motto, giving wings to children's dreams. So as we go through it, and as we look at, and as we make decisions on programs and the delivery of services, please keep those universals in mind, because they are the precursor. And when you look at our elementary programs, where do we spend our most time? We spend most of our time in reading, communication skills, and numeracy. And there's where our major focus is. And when you look at the support programs that we've put in place, and a perfect example is the middle school academy that we talked about yesterday in the adult ed program. Where is the major focus? The major focus is on those universals. The ability of youngsters to be able to read, to be able to communicate, to be able to use math skills, to support reasoning and thinking and moving ahead. All right? So with that as a general framework, I think we can kind of move ahead. What we've done, and what I'll be working off of for you, is the summary sheet, which covers a total of 20-some-odd pages. And how we've broken it down, 29 pages to be exact, is we've given you last year's activities and goals and objectives and priority areas, and then carried out to 06, 07, 08, 09, and school year 10-11. In the left-hand column, those are the status of the activities that we had in place for the 05-06 school year. When you go through it, you will notice that there are some actions that, in fact, are in what I have been told is called elephant type. And those are new or changed objectives that we put in this year. So they would have deviated from the 05 to 09 strategic plan. Okay? And what I'm going to do is, in a sense, focus on the 06-07 school year. But if board members have questions on the actions that occur in 07-08, 08-09, 09-010, etc., then certainly we will address that, keeping in mind that actions in subsequent years are predicated in some part on activities and actions that occurred during the 06-07 school year. Okay? Our first goal covers in curriculum and instruction, and that, in fact, is the major focus of our strategic plan. We have 4 priority areas within that goal. We have 34 objectives, and there are a total of 481 actions carried out through the 2010-2011 school year. Some of these are iterative in nature, in that, let me give you an example. In looking at priority area 1, objective 1 was complete and refine and train and disseminate district toolkits, K-12. Refreshing toolkits annually and is something that we do on a continuing basis each year. As you go down, you will see what we've identified as continuing, ongoing areas of work as far as toolkits are concerned. And then as you move on, and you'll see that it covers everything from language arts. Up at the high school, we're talking about some of our new subject areas. Middle school, we're talking about reading and language arts. High school, we're looking at refining toolkits in civics, economics, world at war, AP Spanish, AP French literature, and law and mock trial, to name a few. As we go to Objective 2, which is ensuring that the organization of learning is clearly defined across grade levels, we have certain things that have become inculcated in our culture, if you will. That is the continuation across grade level meetings for district and curriculum articulation, transition meetings from each level, so that we have this ongoing process of communication from each level so that we can have a consistency in curriculum and instruction. Continuing work to address the NEASC recommendations regarding the high school accreditation and things such as training for the rubric, the implementation and evaluation research rubric as per the plan. We're continuing our work in the area of math, in the math program, K-12. This year, emphasis on continuing support and training for online text for grades 5 and 4, continued training support for the new math program, review the new CMP modules for accelerated and high groups at the middle school level, training support for the same thing. Constant that you will also see throughout is reviewing assessment data to determine math groupings and reviewing assessment data to make instructional and placement decisions and grouping decisions for students and changing of instruction. We also are constantly reviewing assessment data with the math department to design and implement services for students found at risk on Iowa and NECAP tests. As the board is aware, what we now have is a standing operational procedure for us, is identification of the youngsters who are on standardized assessments, whether they're Iowas or NECAPs or DEBLs, who are scoring below a certain percentage point, to investigate those particular youngsters, make a determination as to where their particular strengths and weaknesses are, and then provide additional support in reading. Our three-tier reading model is also predicated on the use of that kind of data to provide additional instruction for students in Tier 1, Tier 2, or Tier 3. As we continue on under this objective, reviewing and revising the math program, you'll also see a continued refinement of the curriculum maps in math in grades 6 through 8, reviewing Algebra 1, pre-algebra, geometry benchmarks for both the middle school and the high school, the continued training support for the CMPs. Also, fully implementing the grade 11 Algebra 2 benchmarks, implementing and evaluating a high school tech-rich math environment, training math teachers to optimize instruction in a tech-rich environment, and recommending and preparing a budget for adding an advanced level math course such as Calculus BC to the high school course of studies. We're also reviewing and evaluating the effectiveness on an ongoing basis of our math electives. Also, too, if you go towards the bottom of the page on the bottom, one of the things, and this is a typical example, as we continue to review our assessment data, one of the things that continues to pop up and where we've seen significant growth, but we're going to continue to focus, is on calculation skills and using mental arithmetic. We're using mental arithmetic approaches as appropriate in grades 3 through high school to check for reasonable answers without the aid of a calculator. Providing daily math computation reinforcement activities in appropriate grades 3 through high school math classes. That is ongoing. That's something that we are continuing to focus on. Frequent time computation drills, which the board is familiar with. Andy reported frequently last year to the school board on the computation drills and computation tests, and we're doing the same thing at the elementary levels this year. And providing parent and community information outreach in the area of mathematics K through 12 through print, electronic, and Leo 21. As we move on to the next objective, which is a review of the reading, English language arts curriculum K-12, continue training support of DIBLS online for teachers and administrators as needed, providing reading intervention training to K-3 classroom assistants and special education assistants through elementary reading teachers on an annual basis, continuing the DIBLS training and reading interventions for K-3 classrooms, and then moving on, reviewing assessment data with the English and reading departments to design and implement services for students found at risk on the Iowa and or NECAP results, and then continue monitoring and analysis of the local assessments, Iowa and the state assessments. I think a perfect example of this was the report that Mark provided to the board, I believe two board meetings ago, where he demonstrated the thorough analysis that we're going through in identifying students' areas of strength and weakness, and it's been broken down by gender, it's broken down by different groupings, whether youngsters are receiving special ed services or regular ed services. And I believe this is going to be a big help. You then go on and you see a host of new activities that are related to the piloting and potential adoption of the core reading program. And those are all identified for you in the elephant print. In addition, we're continuing to re-emphasize our writing program and the training of teachers, particularly in the area of 6 traits, and providing refresher courses for the veteran teachers and providing additional training for the new teachers as an ongoing process, and providing frequent practice and reinforcement in short response and extended response writing for information, comprehension, and analysis. We're increasing the elementary and middle school formal writing process prompts so that we're going to be spot checking our students more frequently and putting a major focus in that area. Again, we go back to what we talked about earlier this evening, which was literacy. Looking at the possible implementation of core reading as we move ahead, the continued implementation of the middle school language arts writing portfolios, continued development of spelling, vocabulary, grammar components for the LMS writing program, and implementing the revised English and language arts scope and sequence and benchmarks. And then looking at budgeting for the first year of the implementation cycle for adoption of text in English language arts and reading. As we move on down to social studies, the objective social studies K-12, continued review and monitoring, refining, and adjusting curriculum based on classroom data. This is a thread that's running through everything. What we are moving more and more towards is the utilization of data to inform instructional practices and strategies and making curriculum adjustments. Looking also to fully implement in grades 6 and 7 the new social studies text, and continue training the middle school social studies department in the use of that program. Also an implementation in grades 3 through 5 of the social studies trimester guidelines in that area. Going to continue with the grade 3 social studies training for the text that we're using, and looking at the curriculum, and developing recommendations and preparing a budget for changes to possible humanities course offering. As we move to science, we're forming a committee to begin the study of science, and then providing training and support of existing science, as well as reviewing and revising the 6 through 8 health and PE benchmarks, the scope and sequence, and based on national and state and local guidelines, and professional development, continue with our ropes course training for faculty. Again, another strand running through is monitoring and assessing the Iowa assessment data and reporting to the curriculum committee as well as the school board. We're also continuing to review and evaluate the effectiveness of the delivery of instruction in the tech-rich grade 9 freshman science classrooms, and this year we will have the honor and thrill of administering the kneecap science pilot at grades 4, 8, and 11, which everyone is just looking forward to with unbelievable abandon. Continue training in science, budgeting for some possible changes in the area of physical science, and revising benchmarks, scope and sequence, and pacing guides to reflect changes in the science curriculum. Training that's associated with that for our staff, and train all science teachers in the use and implementation of science learning materials is out a couple of years as we put the new materials in. As you go further on down the page, you see the elephant type once again. And what we're looking at is an elementary committee to study the new state science literacy frameworks and science themes in the core reading program and exiting science benchmarks per year 1 of the study phase. You're looking at the Science Committee to meet and draft district benchmarks to align with the objectives of the science literacy frameworks. And then the Middle School Science Committee will be examining and recommending learning materials to support the new state science literacy frameworks, and then providing recommendations for science materials in grades 6 through 8. As we move ahead to health and PE, they're reviewing and revising in grades 1 through 5 the health and PE benchmarks, the tri-semester guidelines, and the scope and sequence. Continuing with rope course, the challenge course, rope training and repair and certification of the teachers in that area. Implementing the revised benchmarks and trimester guidelines. Implementing the revised elementary curriculum adjustments in this particular subject area. And continuing to monitor student progress in wellness and health. And reviewing and revising the grade 9 health and PE benchmarks and scope and sequence based on the national health and PE standards and state graduation requirements. Moving on to music, completing the revisions to the benchmarks and the scope and sequence and trimester guidelines in grades 1 through 5, the pacing guides 6 through 12, and the one study phase in C3. And earlier this year, Andy presented that information to the board. Looking at and developing recommendations for the middle school math and foreign language courses that offer high school state credit per state minimum standards. We will continue to see if, in fact, the state actually gets some movement on the college level to allow us to grant credits to our middle school students for taking high school level courses. We had this discussion with the board last year. So right now we're in a hold phase on that, but we're prepared to be able to do that if, in fact, we get the go-ahead and the green light. Monitoring curriculum is a key issue for us. This goal that we have here, continue to monitor district benchmarks per trimester and report to school board annually. Just recently, the board had changed that, so we'll make an adjustment in the plan. Mark presented to you the scope, the change as per request of the school board. We're going to conduct a review of the current info lit and technology benchmarks for alignment with various assessments and for gap analysis and making recommendations for modifications. Review of the budget and materials as necessary related to this, and inventorying current district ICT or information literacy computer technology resources practices and aligning them with new state standards to ensure compliance. Continue to work with distance education and virtual technologies. The grant that Susan presented to you last night is a perfect example of that. Providing online tutorials and blogs to ensure instruction on basic use of research and resources for students who need a refresher and have transferred to Londonderry. That will be an ongoing initiative. Identifying the major strategic technology initiatives using the technology template and based on the adopted tech plan, and the continued implementation of the adopted multi-year technology plan based on our priorities. Susan presented to the board last spring the technology plan, the multi-year technology plan, and a number of board members were also had worked on that, and then setting the direction and responding to what we're required to do by the state. Then staff development with providing assured research experiences and identified area grade levels, including special education modifications, identifying the next round of curriculum access points for implementation in 07-08, making recommendations for appropriate modifications during the course of this year, and providing staff development for assistance with providing assured info-lit technology experiences and identified area grade levels, including special education modifications. Going on down, continue the implementation of the house system and career academies, continue the existing career academies, implement the communications pathway, which we did last year, develop, plan, and continue to review and implement existing and additional career academies as needed based on student interest, and review and evaluate the communications pathway. The Curriculum Coordinating Council has reviewed its organizational structure and will be filling with representatives. It will annually review the district curriculum development process, review and revise the curriculum development process web posting annually on the district website, report and communicate C3 activities monthly, and then reports to the board in September, December, March, and June of each year. As we look at science delivery model, service delivery model, implementation of the elementary SSC program for students with autism, and studies, services, and supports provided to students with PDD, autism, and cognitive disabilities. And I believe Brian has passed out for you a graphic showing the major areas of focus in special education and how they're tied and where they're tied in. And Susan also has a very lovely PowerPoint, which I will pass out to you, that ties in the major objectives and priorities within her scope and where they're tied into. And we had both of them do that because theirs cuts across all areas, and we felt that was important. Okay, moving on. Looking at special curriculum programs, grades 1 through 8, continuation of the monthly meetings, annually develop a timeline and calendar for screening and identification in key pull-out math, CMP high math, accelerated math, pre-algebra, and algebra 1, updating and reviewing the website information for parents. Remember last year that was a big initiative in getting all that information up on the website. Continuing the academic enrichment academies at the middle school, continue and expand extended school day academies at the middle school, developing resource toolkits for key and math enrichment, and evaluating the grade 4-5 enrichment clusters at all schools, and continuing the enrichment cluster program at grades 4 and 5. Those, as the board is well aware, we had students actually make great presentations last year on the enrichment clusters, and we're going to continue and look to expand those. We felt for first year they worked extremely well, and we're very, very pleased with that. In priority area 2, which covers ensuring curriculum is delivered in accordance with diverse needs, monitoring district reading program, the differentiating instruction K-5, specifically in the use of multi-level text and core reading, continuing the training of elementary teachers in the interpretation of standardized test data, the continued use of DIBELS, taking a look at action plans and support designed for elementary students below the 30th percentile on the Iowa, scoring novice and kneecap, and the at-risk or deficit in DIBELS will be ongoing. Establishing a differentiation team for all content areas in grades 6 through 8. Action plans and support design and implemented for the middle school students, also who score below the 30th percentile on the Iowas and novice on kneecap. Londonderry Teachers Academy with a focus on reading in the content area in social studies in 05-06 and continuing this year. Reviewing middle school student performance with regard to AYP, and again, continuing analysis of standardized tests in reading and providing additional support. What we didn't have in here, because it came up just a little while ago with the presentation last night of the reading and math academies at the middle school, so we'll include those in. And I think what, in a sense, that shows is that even though we have a plan and we've laid it out, there is flexibility within the plan based on what we do as far as analysis of how successful a program is. The fact that we were not getting many middle school kids come to summer school, and we still felt there was a need to provide these youngsters with a longer day or a longer school year, is utilizing existing resources to provide that kind of service in a different way. And I think that goes to speak well for both Mark and Andy and Annie Kalachi, who worked on that proposal. Literacy in the content area, in reading in the content area, is an ongoing focus for us and will continue to be an ongoing focus for us. The high school took the initiative several years ago, and they're continuing to focus on literacy in the content areas as we go all along, providing online reading strategies to all teachers K through 12, and it even came out, the calendar that we gave to you earlier this year, that had, for each month, a different set of reading strategies in the content area. Was a little side thing, but I think it's just indicative of the focus that we have. Implementing the second year of the reading in the content area training cycle, the literacy subcommittees, so that the literacy committee members can work more one-on-one with teachers in regards to their specific content areas. Continue to update the webpage and teacher resource folder that can be accessed by the high school faculty, which will hold current research in the field and templates for teacher use. And literacy committee will hold multiple trainings for faculty in the field of reading in the content area. Moving on to monitoring the district math program. Again, the analysis of the NECAP results, Iowa results, to utilize that information to develop instructional strategies, programming, and groupings for students. A new initiative, the objective is to implement the PBIS to increase, with its express purpose of increasing instructional time. This is a layered approach, as you see that we have schools at various stages of implementation. South School is entering its third year. Matthew Thornton is entering its second year with its implementation, and I believe Carol told you all about the little pause stuff. And North School is beginning this year, and we're moving towards PBIS at the middle school too, and you'll see that further down under LMS initiatives. What is really good about, one of the really positive things about the PBIS program is that it is a very data-strong program, and the schools are able to use the information based on their goals and the focus and the energy to effectuate positive behavioral consequences. And it is a very positive program in its approach, and has worked well. This will also, as the board is aware, we were part of a $360,000 mental health grant that, in a sense, is an extension of the PBIS program. We'll be meeting with representatives on that grant within the next couple of weeks to make sure everybody has an orientation to it, and then we'll begin to be able to implement the activities as per the action plan that I believe the board received copies of, and looking at involving wraparound services, community supports in the area of mental health, which I think will have a significant benefit for at-risk youngsters and at-risk families, and support our initiatives regarding PBIS and support services that we already provide to students. Also outlined towards the bottom part of the page is the continuation of the Brown Center program, the curriculum mapping at the middle school, the continued work with More Than Words, and then looking at the PBIS program, and a timeline for an implementation on that is outlined for you. Looking at continuing on at the high school level, reviewing and evaluating the effectiveness of AP Spanish and AP French and AP French literature courses, and reviewing and evaluating the success of the AP course offerings in English and Social Studies. As was mentioned the other night, we'll be investigating the possible implementation of AP Biology at the high school also. The adult alternative ed, continue to monitor and assess the implementation of our adult ed program, and a year or so down the road, investigate virtual learning opportunities for adult ed. Continue to explore and implement vocational opportunities at the high school, continuing training supporting for first and second year PLTW teachers, as well as continuing with evaluating the effectiveness of the Project Lead the Way program and refine course offerings when necessary. Continuation to foster a partnership with Alverne High School for the concept of the dual campus adult ed, and evaluating the summer lift program for grade 10 students at Alvern. And Jason gave you an updated report on that last evening, and we're continuing to move ahead and providing additional opportunities for our kids. Review and make recommendations regarding vocational counseling services for day and adult ed youngsters. We have increased the number of youngsters that we have over the last couple of years on internships, and counseling, and vocational counseling, and we're going to look to continue to expand those services, and you'll probably be reviewing a recommendation at budget time regarding vocational counseling services for both day and adult ed students. Looking at the middle school special curriculum program, expanding academic academies offered in grades 6 through 8, continue to expand the extended school day academies at the middle school, ongoing review and revamping of the screening process, and guidance, continue to develop course tutorial portfolios will also be a continuing focus. Priority Area 3, basic curriculum development, instruction on best practice. Again, the analysis of all sorts of instructional data to inform instruction. The continued provision to administrators and teachers access of DIBEL's web-based stat systems for analysis. Also the IRM for our Iowas, and continuing the interactive results manager, that's the IRM, and getting the data off of that to provide information. We have reviewed, as we listed here, middle school summer school offerings and our other summer school offerings, and making adjustments with those. Continue to monitor students that have gone to summer school and see whether or not their progress has continued at an appropriate level, or whether or not they're still having difficulty, and what are the benefits for those children as far as attending summer school and their process in their learning as we go through it. Then what we're also looking at, because we've had discussions throughout the past year, is budgeting and piloting sample enrichment programs for elementary and middle school students during the summer. We'll see how that goes. Then another focus is in the goal of two areas which are near and dear to Sue Ballard's heart. To ensure our students are ethical users of ideas and information, looking at ongoing efforts of sustainability, an annual review of professional development, and looking at establishing an academic integrity study committee at the high school down the road, and also continuing the efforts on action research and looking at implementing pilot projects and ongoing training in the use of the model in grades 1 through 8, in grades 1 through 12. And we are also in the process, Sue is also in the process working with Susie in having Riviere provide a graduate level course for action research, which we would then offer our faculty. Looking at forming a district-wide committee to review current practices and make recommendations regarding district initiatives for the response to intervention model. Then looking at preschool curriculum outcomes, identifying and implementing assessment tools to ensure compliance with the Department of Education's preschool outcome initiative and reporting that to the state. And review a service delivery model for special education, studying the elementary and middle school math program for special ed students in the following areas: instruction, curriculum, materials, and assessment, and developing recommendations for math programming for special ed students, and implementation of recommendations for math programming for special ed students. Moving on to priority area 4, continually raise the level of student achievement in meeting or exceeding Londonderry School District graduation standards. Continue with what we are finding to be a very successful approach to reading is the triad reading model and restructuring of the use of elementary assistants, sped assistants, and reading teachers to more effectively provide reading instruction based on assessment need. And we had reported back to the board last year on the implementation of the triad reading model. And I think not all of the increase in test scores in that area can be attributed to it, but I think a healthy dose of it can. And going back to what we had talked about as far as universals, that is, in one sense, trying to ensure as best as possible that our students have those universal skills that we talked about earlier, which will allow them to continue to learn and be able to learn as they move through school, and focusing on those so that those youngsters have those skills which will enable them to be successful in school as they go down the road. As we look further, the action research model, sustain and expand the action research model with the Rutgers collaboration. The professor that we're working with switched schools, so now we've switched our allegiance from, what was it, BU to Rutgers. So we went up a level, right, Peter?
Yes.
Okay, there you go.
Nate,
Yes.
just before you, we just finished goal number 1,
Yeah.
and that was a mouthful.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff. Amazing you got into 21 pages. Just a small thing, the curriculum mapping, which is called out a number of times in
Yes.
here, in particular in a kind of a non-recurring sense, getting that in place for expanded subject areas at the middle school, grades 6 to 8. I guess I would suggest we might want to show that above and beyond that as an ongoing thing in the out years, since that will always be subject to
Good point.
revision for new students, for changes in programs, for changes in state standards, what have you.
Good idea, Paul. Thank you. Okay. Goal 2, professional competency. This basically is staff development, and the underlying premise here, and I've started to go through it, is that our staff development priorities are directly geared to what we want to emphasize in the area of curriculum and instruction. And that's where the main focus is. And so, as we go through, you notice action research, also too, continuing to provide training in Danielson-based observation and evaluation training to new and veteran teachers. As a matter of fact, as part of the new teacher induction program, it was run, the last session was focused completely on Danielson and the components of Danielson and how staff members could use that. Reviewing the district professional development plan as per the New Hampshire Department of Ed required rubric. We're in the process of doing that now. Susan and members of the staff development committee are refining our plan so that we can send it on to the state, so it can sit on somebody's desk for 3 months and then they can get back to us. Refine and improve the Induction Institute. The Induction Institute has made a number of significant changes in delivery of the induction program. I think they've all been very positive, and we've gotten great feedback from the new staff members. And it includes things like providing up to 6 sessions of the embedded Danielson and Wong, an environment that fosters professional and personal growth, connecting the induction topics to actual ongoing activities and the teacher's instructional assignment. We also have set up a blog, is that what we're calling? A blog for all the teachers in the Induction Institute where they can log on, they can interact with one another, they can share information. To expand the teacher evaluation system to include professional staff of pupil services, looking at finalizing the evaluation system for related service providers, that's OT, PT, speech and language, psychologists, and SAFEs. Implementation of, and then obviously implementation of that program. Priority area 3 under this is providing ongoing training of professional staff. Continued implementation of technology plan revisions, training on and maintenance and upgrading of the web pages, and investigating and establishing quality control and monitoring of web page content as we move ahead. It's training and support. Another objective is training and support that enables staff to use the infrastructure, responsibilities, and skills necessary to implement instruction and enhance student learning. Our Teachers Academy and Technology Conference cohorts, we've got the Teachers Academy stuff to go, continuing target training to support and sustain technology-rich teachers in special education at the high school and Administrative Staff Support Institute. And we just finished filling out a survey for Susan Ballard, in which, as a result, we will then have specific job-embedded training for administrators in a variety of areas, so that those of us who may have difficulty with Excel spreadsheets or importing or exporting data will have the program specifically designed with the concept that we want all of our administrators to be as technology savvy as possible to meet their job specifications and to assist them in doing better at what they're doing. And when all else fails, I ask Connie to do it. So, there we go. Then expanding collaborative development, our continued work with the Teachers Academy and PDS, our continued on-site master's program with Riviere, looking at reviewing the PDS structure and developing a memorandum of understanding with Rev regarding same for the professional development, and then the online professional development center. Continued program development in conjunction with Riviere, that's our master's program. And then revise our technology survey to incorporate questions on instructional practice and integration. Developing and expanding professional development opportunities through pupil services. New areas of focus, studying professional development opportunities for special support to include special ed manual training, the continuation and expansion of the Disability Institute, continuation and expansion of the special ed induction program, the training of the new teachers. And again, the continued focus here too is the specific job embedded training. We had talked with the board over a year ago where it mentioned that we were providing staff development training not only for the special ed staff but also for the regular ed teachers that were student specific, so that when we have a number of youngsters that are particularly have some real significant disabilities and they're moving up to the high school, we provide that training to those particular staff members who are going to have those kids that are child specific. So rather than have a general workshop on autism, if we have a youngster that's going up to high school that has autism, the previous teacher or the specialist in our district in autism works with those regular ed teachers as well as the case managers on specific instructional strategies that work with that child directly related to that youngster's disability. So you get the benefit of hands-on instruction that's going to be used right away, that's child-specific, as opposed to a general workshop and then trying to figure out, well, what works with the kid and what doesn't work with the kid. So that's been a key change for us in those particular areas, and I think it's worked out well. As we move on, we look at a structural space. The board is well aware that we have Space Needs Committee at South School, and they'll be presenting a report to the school board shortly with the idea that we'll be putting in a warrant article for A&E costs for construction and renovation at South School. Then going on to Goal 4, to create and maintain two-way communication. Objective to improve use of the intra and internet, the web and FM radio. Continued enhancement in fostering collaboration among teachers. The continued enhancement of our district web pages to deliver more meaningful information. Implement the underwriting policy and activities for Leo, which Sue brought to the board last year and the board approved. Continue development of additional internal and external communications. Looking to continue development of programming and identity and policy station manual for WLLOLP. Looking to create the Parent Resource Center section on the district and school website, and utilizing email across the district as a primary means of communication and information delivery. I believe the board members received one of our All Exchange things today, but we've been using that more and more as far as communication tools with faculty. The communication system, the continued utilization of the communications toolkit, the dissemination and training regarding same, the continued review of internal communications procedures to increase collaboration, the continuation of WINGS, which is our internal school district newsletter, and the newsletter distributed electronically and posted the first week of each month. And another objective is to continue to communicate with parents, the principal newsletters, the calendars, the mail communications, the meetings that have been had, continuation of senior, junior, and grade level newsletters and outreach programs for parents and students. And it includes some of the programs, for instance, that Mike Dolphin has done in recent years regarding college admission and so forth, and that have been on TV, and also the ongoing programs that we've provided parents in the schools. Looking at, moving on to the scope and charge and composition of the Special Ed Council, continue to review the composition and charge of that committee, monitor the initiatives as set forth within the strategic plan. Then a new objective is to facilitate access to information regarding special ed, which is the development and implementation of presence on the school district's website, to provide information regarding special ed, to include a variety of information and program overviews, easy-to-follow procedures, and then in ensuing years review and update the web page. Then Goal 5, to create and maintain an efficient and effective organization that supports the district mission. Yes,
I'm sorry, can I let you take
Yeah,
a
sure.
breath again for a second?
please.
Goal 4, and you're doing a great job, by the way. At this rate, we'll be home in time for the game at 8:15, I think. Goal 4 that we just did, communications, which
Yes.
I think is real important. Maybe I should ask Sue about this. Will there be any opportunities in light of a lot of the things going on with websites, district web pages, radio station, underwriting, more use, better use of email and internet communications, et cetera? Will there be any opportunities this fall for the Communications Committee to give the board an update on what's going on?
I think it would be winter by the time, we just had a meeting, so. By the time we have another meeting, and
How often do you meet?
once a month.
Or right after the first of the year or something, just?
Super. We're on Goal 5 here, holy mackerel. Buildings and grounds, updating the 5-year building maintenance and improvement plan as we move ahead. Continued training of employees on safety. Continue performing indoor air quality testing as an ongoing thing. Roof inspections that we do on a semi-annual basis. Coordinating the athletic fields task force for short and long-term field stuff. Submit to board recommendations for building securing and looking at different options for building security needs. To recruit and retain highly qualified professionals. We're going to continue to run our open house for recruitment, which has been extremely successful. I think the principals can say we have been able to pick up a number of high-quality candidates out of that job fair. That has been extremely successful for us. And Susie continues to get phone calls from other school districts on how we do this, how do you do this? And we've gotten great support, too, I have to say, from the Department of Ed on this. So that has really been good. Expanding the relationship with local colleges, continuing with our employee recognition program, the continued utilization of the teacher profile for hiring, the implementation of the online HR Munis software, and investigating and developing recommendations for programs and services to reduce the cost of healthcare district-wide. Now, I want to pass on a very interesting tip along with this. As your board may know, the HR department instituted an opportunity for faculty and staff members across the district to participate in Weight Watchers programs. In fact, they meet on a regular basis, which is part of this to promote health. I believe the district office, Matthew Thorpe, and the high school, all of the people, they had their meeting today. Each one of those sites, everybody who was in the program had reported losing weight. So I think that's pretty good. And this is what, only the second or third meeting. It was pretty good. So that's, I think that's just part of it. And not only is it better for employees, but obviously the healthier employees are, the better they're going to perform. And so it's those kinds of activities that I think are really good. So.
Something like The Biggest Loser, huh?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah, yeah.
It's great.
Thank you.
Who does that?
I think that's rude, but.
Okay. Okay,
Would anybody like to volunteer? Anyways, that's all right, Dan.
all right. Then easy access and the ability to effectively report information through appropriate technology. The replacement and upgrading of our workstations, providing the hardware and infrastructure to meet curriculum needs. We'll probably look at network document imaging again, roll out a more comprehensive and secure method for remote access, securing a long-range solution for student management program, submitting a proposal for possible PDA devices to be used by senior building administrators. That's something that we're looking at. Then priority area 4, ensure financial management is consistent with federal and state regs. Implementation of the GASB Statement 43, which is a couple of years down the road, but we're looking at that. Studying current practices regarding, as we move to pupil services, studying current practices regarding evaluation of students, and I believe Brian has mentioned that to the board previously, and developing research-based strategies to increase the quality and application of evaluation data. Then implementing recommendations set forth from the 06-07 study of evaluation. That'll be obviously a couple years down the road. Then looking at the restraint policy, which we're continuing to talk about, developing a protocol to determine the assignment of one-on-one and shared assistance, and then implementation of that protocol that following year. Developing recommendations for changes to existing nursing policies and protocols, to continue work on that, and develop and implement independent evaluation criteria policy. And then new area focus, which we have already discussed, is the New Hampshire Special Education Systems. That's the system that we had talked about at a previous board meeting. That brings us to page 29, and provides the board, knowing the board has had an opportunity to go through in depth the action plans, but that kind of gives the members of the public too, as well as the board, an overview and a flavor of the direction of the district, and the actions and activities and the focus for our ongoing school improvement efforts. And we'd be happy to entertain any questions that board members might have.
Made back on page 27, I guess as part of the Goal 5, effective organization.
Go ahead, Paul.
Right above, at the end of priority area 1, this section right in here
Yeah.
talks about building security needs. There's 3 lines there, and it's one, I guess, a line for each year there.
Mhm.
Does that encompass by itself really all considerations with respect to security in general in the district? Or are there
Yes.
other things?
Yes,
That's really it there?
yes.
So there's probably, this is a summary, but
Right.
there's a lot more detail behind this, but this purports to be that whole category.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
The PDA devices that you mentioned down below too.
Right.
Are those important also from a security point of view?
I think an argument could be made that, yeah, they would be helpful in that regard. Yes. I'll give you an example. If in fact we have.
We've used a lot of TLAs, so could you explain PDA
Yeah.
and how it relates to security?
Right. If you have these personal data, they're mini computers, right, where we would be able to download information on all our students, so that if in fact we had a bus accident, Andy or Peter or I could go out to the bus accident, we could identify all those students that are on the bus, we could call up the phone numbers, home phone numbers, parent contact numbers, and then utilize that information to effectuate a more rapid response to something along those lines. Also, if in fact it's Art Salidas is all the way down the hall, one end of the wing at the high school, and there's an issue with a student, we have easy access to call up that information and get that information up and off that particular device. Would you like to add anything else?
Well, no, I think, I understand, I see some of the comments, but. No, all I wanted to say was, these devices are becoming more and more common than we think. A lot of high schools are beginning to use these, where you have pictures of students, the emergency contact of students, and even maybe the schedule of students. So, for example, you've talked about, in your discipline reports, the frequent flyer or whatever. I'll use Art Salidas, since he brought him up. If Jimmy Carter was walking the hallway, and Art Salidas sees him, he says, "Jimmy, where are you supposed to be?" He says, "Well, I got to study." He can look up and says, "No, you're supposed to be in Paul Martin's math class, get over there." So it's those kind of information that, we got the schedules, picture of a kid, if they're missing a kid or whatever. In the elementary schools, the principals are very good, they know pretty much who all the kids are. 1,800 kids in the high school, Jim is good, and Art Salidas and the other assistant principals are very good, but they don't know 1,800 faces. Bring up the kid's picture to get an idea of who you're looking for. It's that kind of stuff. Again, using the student management program, whatever it is, as the mother database, and feed information, so everybody has particular information at their fingertips. It's an easy upload, download every day. It's not, an hour thing, and you're not getting every piece of information from the kids, just pictures, printed information, emergency, maybe a schedule.
PDA stands for what, Peter? Personal Data
Yeah,
Assistant or something?
If you want to call it a POM that most of us have for scheduling, whatever.
Yeah.
It may be a little bit more.
A database.
Yeah, a little more memory or whatever, little whole pictures and other, but it's basically a POM that can be used to pull up information.
Okay. And it looks like there's a report to the board with respect to not only recommendations for building security, but also these PDA devices this month,
Yeah, we're
at least
a
in
little bit behind
plan, but
because of other stuff.
this fall or something?
Yeah, maybe like in January.
Okay,
Yeah.
sometime in the future. And when we say building security, I would imagine that would encompass property as well
Right.
as building to an extent. That's
Yeah, as we go through it, I mean, we've had, just to give you an example, we've had some internal discussions regarding swipe locks for some of the buildings. That way, we can then track who has been in the building and who has been in and out of the building, and who was the last person in. Also, too, if somebody leaves our employ, then that particular card can be disabled, and you don't have to worry about rekeying an entire school because you've got somebody that's left or somebody lost a key. Sometimes other group, so that is an advantage at times, too.
Now, this is approximately about a year between submitting a proposal and providing. Is
Right.
there a lot of preparation of the data that has to go on in order for them to be outfit with these things? Or-
Well, I think part of what we're trying to do is phase some stuff in, as far as what we consider to be overall priorities, and trying to provide as much information to the board and weigh out what we consider to be the most important items, and try and balance those out with other requests for funding. So
Okay.
that's really what it
It's
comes
all
down to.
phased.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
yes. Yes, Dan?
Nate, could we flip to page 4, please?
Yes, sir.
It falls under subcategory Objective 4A, review revised math program K through 12. In the elephant fold there,
Yes.
the next to last one, use mental arithmetic in appropriate grades 3 through high school classes to check for reasonable answers without the aid of a calculator. I've often wondered, why do we just not eliminate calculators entirely in the elementary program? Is there a benefit to calculators? So why do we have that, as an objective to use mental arithmetic? Should we not have that as a goal?
I think that's if I recall, it's a legacy item.
Mm.
Two areas on calculators. One is they are used for problem solving with kids, and two is they are on the kneecap exam for our students to use calculators for certain problem solving strategies. So because they're on the kneecap exam, we allow our kids to use calculators in practice.
Do we allow them to use them too much?
No.
But this is an objective, correct?
Right. One of the things that we found, Dan, and we mentioned it to the board, and we did see an increase in student performance this year, was our kids tended to do fine on problem solving. They were having difficulty with calculation skills. Whether computation skills.
Right, I remember all that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we feel that by having the youngsters do those actions and activities without a calculator will reinforce those skills.
Well, that's what I'm
Yeah.
supporting.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, we all use our own children as examples, but when they're doing their homework, they're relying more and
Right.
more and more on the utilization of the calculator. So, I just didn't know how much they're utilized in the classroom, and if we're putting this down as an objective, it seems to me it'd be an easy one to achieve by just eliminating the utilization of the calculator, as we did when we saw the kneecap results for, I believe it was the middle school,
Yes,
was
sir.
it not?
Yep.
And we've seen tremendous improvement since we went that objective, or that course, so. I do remember all that, Nate, it's just that this one seems pretty easy to get to.
Right.
I understand learn how to use them.
Right, and, yeah, and that's it too. I think it does serve a benefit. It is a tool, and I think kids need to be able to know how to use them, turn them on, use the different signs, what have you. The question that you had was, do we overuse them? And the answer is, no, we don't.
Then why do we have it as an objective? I don't want to beat it to death, but it sounds like
Because
an objective to me is something we want to achieve.
right, because what we wanted to do was to drive the focus on computation skills.
And I'm there.
Yep, and that's why.
Fair enough. Thank
Eh,
you, thank you.
Yeah, I guess our feeling was if we highlighted it and we kept on coming back and evaluating it and checking it, that would help to ensure success, Dan.
Just one last comment on that. Maybe, I don't know when or where, but maybe when we have the individual class communications with parents, we say, boy, one thing you could do is try to get them away from the utilization of the calculator. Maybe we do that. I don't know. I'll be honest, I never told my kids not to use them, so I'm at fault. I didn't want to fight. Thank you.
Ron?
Nate, can we go to page 9? And I'm looking at the elementary or the science program. I'm getting kind of confused exactly where we're going with this. I see we start off to form the elementary committee, but I don't see any follow-up what we're going to do with it afterward.
Mark?
It doesn't look like it's got the the corresponding steps in there and a time frame for that.
It worked. You can figure
Um,
that out?
Well, basically, I think with the heavy emphasis right now on the core reading program, and in conversations with the elementary administration, there is a wealth of material in the core reading program, including connections with science as well as social studies. And I think as we are underway in the piloting of the program, we're learning more and more each day as to what those components will look like. So with that in mind, because of the implementation next year and perhaps the following year of the core reading program, they're recommending that we push out the elementary science study until we get into the reading, get that reading piece completed. So that's where we're at right now, Ron.
I guess I'm still kind of confused.
Okay.
This year, you're going to form a committee.
Well, I can
That's going to study the new state science.
Well, I can
literacy
tell you,
frameworks.
the elementary folks, middle school folks, and high school, all three levels, last year, during the course of last year, we did examine the new grade level expectations, grade span expectations. So some of the initial work has been done as far as beginning to take a look at those grade level expectations. But like I said, going back to the implementation of the core reading program, we feel taking two major initiatives at the same time would be overwhelming for our elementary staff at this time.
I'll ask the question again. I'm looking at this, and I don't see when you're implementing a science program that's over 12 years old to 13 years old in this district. When is phase 2 come in? When does phase 3 come in? When are we doing that? Right now, it looks like if I read this chart, we're talking about almost 2011, 12, and 13. Because I don't see anything on this list that says, okay, you're not going to do it next year, that's fine.
Yep.
What about the year after? What about the year after that? Science
Okay.
is very important.
Right.
And we don't have any plans here for the science program at the elementary school. I mean,
Well, we can
SKIDS program's
definitely,
almost 50
if it isn't
12,
clearly
13.
spelled out, we can definitely get it in so it's more clear in
But it
the
doesn't appear to
strategic
be
plan. And it doesn't appear to be clear, so we can definitely do that.
I have a related question that I made a note on. Which came first, the NEAP for science or the curriculum for science? Do you understand my question?
Yep. Actually,
Are we doing it because we have to for NECAP?
Actually,
or-
the New England grade level expectations and grade span expectations came first. So, and then this coming spring is the pilot as Nate alluded, at grades 4, 8, and 11, where we will not receive any results. Basically, it's a pilot. They're testing it. The first year's implementation will be the following year, in 2008, May of 2008.
How does our science program right now at the elementary levels match up with these expectations that's put out in New England?
Basically, if you look at the current SKIS program that we have, which is 12 and 13 years old, I have met with the representative from FOSS, which makes the SKIS program. They have not updated that program over those 13 years. So it has not changed. When they originally put the program together, it was based on the national science standards, which our grade level expectations document is also based off of. So it has not changed. There are newer programs out there that we've taken a peek at initially already that may be more user-friendly, more interesting to our students, particularly at the upper elementary levels and middle school grades. So, but we will go back and make that clearer for the strategic plan outlining the science.
Ron?
Mark, you might want to stay up here.
Yep.
As I'm looking at, on page 16, the monitor district math programs to improve student reading skills K through 12. In the math, and this may not be the right area, but in math, my understanding is they have a program similar to Dibbles to test math knowledge as we go to a quick hitting test.
Yes, and I think you're referring to the Ames website. There is developed, I believe, in Iowa, University of Iowa, I believe. I could be wrong. But I know Brian and the special ed staff has taken a look at, initially looking at those measures. And yes, indeed, there are measures that are similar to Dibbles in mathematics.
If we hang our hat on the Dibbles, and we brought it up numerous times in here, why wouldn't we do the same process for the math, since math and literacy are the same? You know, in my mind, they're equal. I want to teach children how to read, I want to teach them how to do math. Why wouldn't I use that and have that information? The tests that you're showing me here are national tests that are given once a year. Here's something that I can get continuously on a short-term basis, similar to what we do with Dibbles, and give feedback to the administrators here and able to use that.
Any response to that? I think it's,
Can you
I
follow
think,
up on
I
that,
think
please?
that's something we can look at.
Okay?
I think part of what we can also use is the assessments that go along with the math program too. So
Most definitely.
you have that, and you can use that material as part of your ongoing assessment. Also, going back to the heart of it, and I know we got a lot of stuff, but if you go back, if you go look at page 49 on the goal sheet for 07-08, I think what we've got, and what was probably left out of the summary sheet, and I knew I had seen it someplace because I knew Mark had put in, for 08, for 08, which would be June of 08, which would be the ongoing, would be Science Committee examines and recommends learning materials to support the new state science literacy frameworks per year 2 recommendation of the C3. So it was my fault not getting it in the summary sheet, but Mark did have it in the worksheet. So that's scheduled for the 07-08 school year. So it's forming the committee, it's the phasing in as per the C3. So page 49, you see it on the
Yep.
bottom there, Ron? So that was my fault that I didn't have it in the summary sheet, and I apologize.
Other questions, Ron?
Yes. On the implementation of the HR Munis software for this year, I thought we implemented it last year.
We installed it, we've had some training, and then we missed the window, and then, so we're, it was, the use of it required more.
Can you start again? Thank you.
We installed it,
How about it, oh, he's got,
we installed it, we have it running, we had testing for half a day. After the testing for half a day, we realized that there was more setup on our part than we thought. So our goal then was to push it off because they were right in the middle of recruiting. We were right in the middle of closing the year. And we've already got a date set up for Munis to come back for the full day training, and we hope to have it ready and used for the upcoming recruitment year. We got pushed back at the very beginning, Ron, because when we're talking to Munis and to Follett about installing the new the web-based Follett program and then the HR module, we got into discussion about the segmentation project, and both companies strongly recommended that we hold off, in this case, Munis HR as well as Follett, until that segmentation project was completely done and everything was, I won't use the word tested, but the network is stable and is working. So that took us to the end of December timeframe. Then we spent the next month and a half or so working with Follett, because that impacted the curriculum and students more than the HR module. And then after we got the Follett going, we started to tackle the HR program. And like I said, we had the half day of training, and the setup to use the data was more intense than we originally thought. So then we've got part of it going. We are using pieces of it now, but we haven't got it fully up and running. We're bringing back Munis for a full day training with, again, the HR group, myself, and Anita. And our goal then is to have it ready for the upcoming recruitment period.
Isn't this module also that the faculty or the staff is
Yes.
able to, why wouldn't we get that in sooner so they can use it to change benefits? And I thought it hit the W-4 forms and everything
Well,
else.
that's
So we're gonna.
change benefits and everything. They'll be able to, we'll have it up and running so they'll be able to view what they got now and then be able to change the benefits when we open that portion up, because we only allow them to change benefits during the open enrollment period.
Okay, it's the open enrollment period, not the
Right.
recruitment period.
Yes.
Okay. One more. I apologize for my ignorance. GASB 43, that's out in '09. What's the difference between that? I thought we were GASB compliant.
Yeah, well, GASB 43 isn't due until, I think it's '09.
Okay,
So,
what is it?
how do we say this?
It's 9 years older than GASB 34.
GASB 43 is going to require us to calculate the potential benefits of retirees and potential retirees.
Long-term liabilities.
Long-term liabilities on that, okay.
It's focusing really on insurances and benefits area.
Ron?
Going to page 25 on the area of to create and maintain two-way communication amongst all stakeholders in the district. One of the things I'd like to see us add to that is develop a district, and I mean a student-wide mailing item. So if we have something to send out, if we have something like that, we can send out a mailing to each of the individual schools or to the whole school district to provide information on that. I think that would be something that we should be able to do.
Ron, are you talking to parents or internally?
Parents. I'm talking about,
Actually, yeah, we just talked about that in the last communications committee meeting. That just came up as something that we would be considering.
Okay, okay.
Parents, you said students.
I meant students,
Right.
parents of students.
Okay.
Right. We were looking for alternative methods for contacting parents in case of emergencies or that type of thing. We probably should be, and this came up after the meeting in my conversations with others too, but looking at the reverse 9/11 that soon will be implemented on the town side. That might be another method of connection with people.
Good.
Also in that, which I think is important on the strategic plan, Nate, is internal communications. I think there's a belief that it's not as good as it could be and that we could do better at it. So it should definitely, if not already, as a point in the strategic plan, it should be there. Ron?
On page 20, we speak about budget and pilot sample enrichment programs for the elementary and middle schools. One of the things that we should also look there is for the high schools. I believe there's an opportunity there to offer some enrichment courses at the high school over the summer, for an eighth of a credit or something like that, but, astronomy, I think for, 4 weeks of astronomy or something like that, that you may get some sort of coverage in.
For those that can't see on camera, they're all pointing at each other.
I've had some initial conversations with Mr. Parent. We're looking at maybe doing some sort of a survey to students to see what kind of possible programs that we could run for a summer type of enrichment opportunity. So we'll get you more information.
Dan?
Nate, I don't know if this falls under the purview of a strategic plan, but in professional development, and there's no particular objective I'm going to reference, but it's often been discussed at the elementary level, prep time. We have it formalized at the middle school and the high school, but at the elementary level, we realize. So are we still talking about that or looking at some way to integrate some of that or discuss it?
Yeah, I believe we have a sidebar agreement in the negotiations that we're to look at prep time options at the elementary school. Right now, the elementary teachers get 3 prep periods for the week. What we'll probably have to do is look at some creative ways of addressing.
Should that be an objective or as part of professional development or no? Okay.
Any questions from the board? Anything else, Nate?
No?
I'd ask for questions from the public,
There's some.
and many of them are both public and administrators.
The only comment I'd like to make is I want to thank the board for the time and effort that you put in reviewing the documents. You know, it's obvious that, to me, that you spent the time, and I also want to say thank you very much to the administrators. This was a major undertaking, and I think they did a great job in pulling this stuff together. And it's one thing to get it down on paper. What has happened, I think, over the last couple of years has been a commitment on their part and part of faculty and staff to actually implement what we've done. And as the board is aware, last year we hit right around 90% of the objectives that we had set and actions that we had set in getting them implemented and through. And some that we weren't able to do were for budgetary reasons, and others were for other reasons. But I'm very pleased with what the administrators and faculty and staff have done in implementing the plan. So,
Nate, before you wrap up, one last item I'd like you to cover before we wrap up, before we end the meeting. One last item I'd like you to cover. It was an email that went out today, and a few of us didn't get the email, and I'd just like you to mention to the employees and the community your requirements for wearing of identification.
right, we have had for a number of years now identification badges, tags that all faculty and staff wear, and to a degree, including myself, every once in a while forget to wear it. But we just reminded all faculty and staff members that they are to in fact wear their identification badges, and this is to assist obviously for security issues. Well, visitors to the buildings have been and will continue to get visitors badges. In fact, we'll probably be making some that are a little bit larger and more colorful so that people will be able to see it. But we're requiring all people upon entry into the building to have either one of these or a visitor's badge, so that we can monitor people within the building. And if a faculty member's walking down the hall and they don't recognize a face and they don't see a badge, they, excuse me, why are you here? Kind of thing. So it's just a case of making sure we review it and we don't get lax. And we sent out an all-exchange email today reminding everybody. And those people who have misplaced theirs will have an opportunity to either get a new picture taken, or we will run off their old one. So.
And the school board's a special category. I think we recently got badges 2 years ago, but we do ask that the board check in at the offices whenever they enter
Right.
the buildings. And this evening, we had someone pass through to get to the school, and I was helped by some people here that said, yes, that was an employee, so I think it makes a lot of sense. Paul, you had one last thing?
Yeah, so Nate, what we just talked about tonight, the strategic plan, that guides all our efforts going forward this year.
Yes.
And informs the budget process that
Yes.
kicks off in another month or so.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
And what is the plan? We have a plan some months from now to check in and just see how we're doing against this?
Sure. What we will be giving the board is a version of the summary sheet that you have in front, and we'll use the code that I've got up in the corner. And what we'll do is identify those items that are on target, those that have been completed, those that are incomplete, and we'll review those with the school board. So we'll give you an update on that, and then we'd be more than happy to do the same thing at the close of the year. And provide that information to you. And it's a good way for us to keep track. So the board is aware, when I meet with the administrators, on a regular basis. Part of our discussion always centers around the activities related to the strategic plan and their particular goals, along with everything else, so we're monitoring. And then we do spend time at council meetings discussing progress on the variety of goals and activities that are related to the school district, so that we all are communicating and keeping abreast of what's happening. So though Bonnie may not have a particular action related to something that's at the high school, she's aware of what in fact is happening, and part of what we're trying to do is to continue to promote the concept that we're a pre-K through 12 district, and what happens in kindergarten will impact what's happening at the high school. So that's a key issue, so people are aware of it.
Ron?
I apologize, I got one more thing that I overlooked, I didn't mark it down here. When we speak about, it's on page 21, going back to review service delivery model for special education math instruction. What do we mean by that?
I put that in, Ron, when we originally received the data from the state upon the first release of our AYP results, prior to the state realizing that they had made an error in the calculation statewide. The administration of that assessment was in the spring. The next administration of the kneecaps is in the fall this year. Before we found out that, in fact, we had made AYP in the subcategory, all the subcategories, but in special education in particular, my fear was that if we didn't put some emphasis on elementary math, because that was the area that we were originally told that we did not make AYP, is special education elementary math. I wanted to put focus onto it prior to the re-administration of that assessment in the fall. Because if you don't make AYP for 2 concurrent years, then you become a school in need of improvement. So when we first got that word, and again, the state since realized they had made an error in that calculation, but that was really my premise behind that. Additionally, as we put our emphasis looking at literacy and the 3-tier reading model, to look at our students who struggle the most in learning mathematics, and looking at the instruction, looking at how we're delivering services to them. Again, one of the pieces that you brought up to Mr. Blunt was the utilization of a Dibbles-like assessment. We've talked about this at the Special Education Committee. We are in the process now of looking at whether an assessment tool such as the AIMS would be beneficial to change the course of instruction for our kids. So that was really the premise behind all of this, was if we didn't make AYP, which of course we did, for 2 consecutive years, that I wanted to at least show to everyone involved that we were looking into this, that we were working towards making sure that we were making appropriate instructional changes for kids.
I think this is excellent to have in here, and just because we made AYP, I think
We're still doing it.
we're still doing it.
We're still doing it.
Here's my concern, just so the board's aware of it. Our elementary math program is literacy-based. Special education children are, the disability tends to be in the literacy area. And we're having a problem here, and I've seen it happen where, and I think they're correcting it this year, where that disability in reading is affecting their math because they're not able to perform the math. Because it's a word-based program, and we're running into a problem there. And I've seen that, I've heard about that, and I've got a concern about that. that the disability in one area is affecting that, where they're put into pull-out groups or class like that, while they can do the math, they just can't reach that point.
Ron, the data that we provided to the school board a few weeks ago, if you looked at the growth rates of the special ed population in mathematics, both male and female, they made a year's growth, an average year's growth in a year's time in mathematics. Where we tend to slip is in the middle grades, where we're seeing more of that issue. But in general, if you look at our special ed population at the elementary grades 1 through 5 with our math program, they made a year's growth in a year's time, and you could break it out in male and female.
Okay, so we sat down and spoke,
Okay?
and we had the situation where we're saying that the math program we picked, and you concurred at the thing. The discussion is the math program we put special education children at a disadvantage. That we had a problem there. And we've taken children and pulled them into pull-out classes because they couldn't do the work in the regular class. So we can get their growth if we pull them out of the class and not mainstream them. So I think maybe we need to have more of a discussion on this, since maybe I've got the wrong impression, but based on some of the discussions that we've had, and I think we need to.
Well, all I'm referring to is the data that we have.
So our math program works perfect for special education
I'm not
children.
saying that. I said the average.
I don't think any program is perfect for everybody, and that the program has to be modified. You make modifications in the reading program, you make modifications in the math program. The issue is I'm not so sure at this point whether or not we need an entirely different math program for youngsters who have specific disabilities. Now, in some instances, Ron, as you know, with some of our coded students, we will have them in a different reading program, or when they're in a resource room, they'll have a different math program to go along with it. It all depends on the level of disability, and it also depends on what modifications the classroom teachers are making regarding the math. The other thing is, the other component part is, I think, as we move ahead, it's also critical, because the math program we picked was the middle-of-the-road language program, as far as emphasis on language and the way language was used. The other part of what we have to do is also work with the students to improve their language skills, because when they get to the high school, and if they're going to take SATs or other tests, there's a lot more language-based mathematical problems for them to deal with. So part of the issue is making, as we do with other subject areas, is making modifications in the delivery. And with certain students, we're using different materials in different programs. But I don't know if it's prudent for us to have a completely different math program for every youngster that's coded.
That's not what I'm saying. I guess I'll ask the question a little differently now, or I'll make the statement. I would like to see the number of students in special education that were in pull-out classes last year at the elementary levels. And I believe, I'd like to see that number, see if it's proportionate to what we do in other pull-out classes.
One of the components.
Tell you what we're going to do. Let's take Ron's request, and we'll move it to a regular meeting. We don't have the coverage in this meeting. We really were trying to focus on the strategic plan, and we can address that at our next meeting. I can put that in as an agenda item. We can review it. I think we'll have more public participation at that time. Anything else on the strategic plan?
Nate, I think you've done an outstanding job, and thank you very much. It really does give me as a board member an idea and a vision of where the district is going in the next 5 years. I know this is not easy to do, but I really appreciate it, and the nitpicking that we're doing in here for God knows how many pages, I mean, 250 pages to come out with 6 and 7 questions, I think is a tremendous effort and a credit to the whole administrative staff and to the faculty that implements this plan. So everyone deserves credit on the administration side for doing this plan. Thank you very much.
If anyone were to actually go through this, it really does make sense, and it all ties together. So appreciate it, Nate. Thank you, Ron.
No problem. Glad to do it.
Motion.
So move to adjourn?
Motion by Ron and second by George. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5-0.
13.